We're in Matthew chapter 17. Jesus, Peter, James, and John have just come down from the Mount of Transfiguration. A crowd is there, and out of that crowd, a dad comes to Jesus and asks him to heal his son, who is demon possessed. The demon throws him into convulsions and has often thrown him into the fire and into the water. And the disciples weren't able to do anything for this dad. Evidently they had tried. And so now Mark, I think it's in Mark chapter 9. I'm going to go over to Mark chapter 9 and read from there how Mark describes this incident, because it's okay. 9:14. When they came to the other disciples, they saw a large crowd around him, and the teachers of the law arguing with them. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. Yeah, it is. Teacher, a man in the crowd answered, "Teacher, I brought you my son who is possessed by a spirit that has robbed him of speech. Whenever it seizes him, it throws him to the ground. He foams at the mouth, gnashes his teeth, and becomes rigid. I asked your disciples to drive out the spirit, but they couldn't do it." And then this is very similar to what Matthew has. "Oh, unbelieving generation," Jesus replied, "how long will I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring me the boy." So they brought him. When the spirit saw Jesus, it immediately threw the boy into a convulsion. He fell to the ground and rolled around, foaming at the mouth. Jesus asked the boy's father, "How long has he been like this?" Pause. I think Jesus already knew. I think he was asking a question so that those watching would get the background on it. "How long has he been like this?" "From childhood," the dad answered. "It has often thrown him into fire or water to kill him. But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us." "If you can," said Jesus, "everything is possible for him who believes." Immediately the boy's father exclaimed, "I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief." That's one of my favorite verses in the whole New Testament. Probably the whole Bible. Look at it. Verse 24, if you have turned over there. Immediately the boy's father exclaimed, "I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief." Have you ever been in that spot? Because I have. I believe, but help me overcome these holdouts. Verse 25, when Jesus saw that a crowd was running to the scene, he rebuked the evil spirit. "You deaf and mute spirit," he said, "I command you, come out of him and never enter him again." The spirit shrieked, convulsed him violently, and came out. The boy looked so much like a corpse that many said, "He's dead." But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him to his feet, and he stood up. I mean, you want a little drama? That's pretty amazing drama from Mark. Now, Matthew's account is less detailed, and we talked a bit about it last time. In verse 19, back in Matthew chapter 17, the disciples came to Jesus in private and asked, "Why couldn't we drive it out?" Mark also has this in his account. I think it's very interesting, and I'm not throwing a rock at the disciples or anything, but they went to Jesus privately and asked him this question: "Why couldn't we do that?" And Jesus replied, "Because you have so little faith." ooh, that's kind of a punch in the nose because you have so little faith. I tell you the truth, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. So you're saying my faith is smaller than a mustard seed? If you've never seen a mustard seed, it's barely bigger than a grain of sand. I mean, it is, I think it is at least one of the smallest seeds in all of the seed families. So that's all I need. I mean, that's one side of that. That's all I need is a mustard seed size faith. Honestly, that's pretty good news, isn't it? But there's the other side of this. So you're saying I didn't even have faith as small as a mustard seed? I think that's what Jesus was saying. Now, Jesus engaged in hyperbole here. He said, if you've got faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. No records of mountains being moved in the Old or New Testaments. I don't think Jesus was saying this literally. I think it was saying your faith, even small faith, is so very powerful. I find myself like the disciples and the dad in this story. I believe, help me with my unbelief. Help me overcome my unbelief. How do you overcome your unbelief? A couple of ways. It really comes down to one big way, a big bucket that it all goes into. You revisit the truth. And for this dad, he had heard, I'm reading between lines, kind of doing a chosen thing here. He'd heard of Jesus. What he knew was his boy was sick. I mean, bad sick. And he wanted what was best for his boy. He'd heard of Jesus, and maybe he heard exaggerated stories, or maybe he just heard the truth about how Jesus had healed so many people. And I think he would have had to go out of his way to find the disciples. Can you imagine? He was a little disappointed when Jesus wasn't there. The disciples, they tried, but they couldn't exorcise the demon. That would have been, I'm just putting myself in the dad's sandals for a minute. I would have been quite discouraged by that. It would have been hit on my faith a little bit. But when he came to Jesus, he hadn't given his faith up. But he knew, oh, I believe, but there's still these, I don't know what percentage, but there's a percentage of me that struggles to believe. Jesus didn't hold that against the dad at all. He healed the boy, cast the demon out, and told it never to enter the boy again. And the boy, this demon, he was not going to give up easily. Throws the boy to the ground, into a convulsion, and departs. And the boy is so still, they think he's died. Jesus takes him by the hand, lifts him up. Can you imagine what was going on in that dad's heart and mind? I would have been totally without words. we don't know that he said anything after that, and we don't know anything about the rest of the story of that dad and son. Don't know. I think, what's the point of that? Well, okay, I go back. I'm like the disciples. Man, I've tried. I've prayed for people, lots of people, to be healed without effect or success. A few have been, but I mean, there are times when I think, I hope you won't think less of me, but there are times when I think, I'll ask you, God, because you told me to ask, but honestly, I'm kind of going through the motions here, because I've asked you this, 1,000 times before? I don't know. My faith is sometimes smaller than a mustard seed. Well, the answer, Jesus didn't really give a direct answer on, so what do you do about this mustard seed size faith? Or better, more accurately, what do I do about my faith that is smaller than a mustard seed? I don't know. Jesus doesn't offer anything on that. Do I try harder to have more faith? I've been down that road, and so far, the effort hasn't produced very much. I do think that when I recall the times of God's faithfulness, and I don't just mean, he was faithful, I mean, really go back in my memory to those times and enumerate those and think deeply about them, the times that he did answer my prayer. And there are even times that he took care of me when I wasn't even bright enough to ask. When I reflect on his faithfulness, that can help grow my faith. There's a second thing, and that thing I get, and I think it's true. The second thing is harder. Faith, I have discovered, does not grow under comfort. It grows with tension and discomfort. In that sense, it's like physical muscles. Your physical muscles don't grow stronger until they are put under stress and tension. You talk to any athlete and they'll tell you they have to work harder most days than the day before in order to build their strength. And then there's a time for recovery, but you don't get stronger by taking a hall pass. You get stronger by enduring the tension and stress of training. Pretty similar with faith. My faith grows under stress, under pressure. I don't like this because I am addicted to comfort. I don't like the fact that if I want my faith to grow, I will have to endure the stress that will produce faith. I don't have to go looking for it. I really don't. I mean, I don't think anybody does. It's going to come. It's just the nature of life. But maybe instead of running from those things or trying to hide from them or deflect them somehow, maybe we should embrace them. That's what James says. I think it's a Phillips translation. It says, welcome troubles like friends. because they are developmental. Well, I don't know what the stress is in your life, but everybody's got it to one degree or another. Let it build faith. Let's decide that together, that it will build faith, because I will put my trust and my hope and my faith in Christ. And as a result of that, and reflecting on his faithfulness and his goodness, I trust that my faith will grow. Okay, enough for today. I'll see you next time on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.